Welcome. I'm Jennifer Sagar, and today I have a good friend and a guest who's a local homeopath, Dr. Roland Guenther. I am really pleased to have you here today, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about, first of all, a little bit about you. You're from Germany.
Yes. Hello, Jennifer. I'm very pleased to be here with you and to share this conversation with you.
Yeah. And how long have you lived in Canada?
It's 11 years now.
Wow.
And
wow.
I think it's just 1 year that I became a Canadian citizen.
Oh,
yeah?
right,
so
right. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Good. And you work here on the island now,
I live on the
Vancouver
island. I work here on the island. Yes, that's correct.
And you have a homeopathic practice?
Yes, right. I do.
Yeah, and so for some people, this is partly why I was wanting to do this type of show, because I'd like to introduce some of these, maybe perhaps what we consider non-traditional treatments or therapies to people who may not know so much about them. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about what is homeopathy?
What is homeopathy? What a great question. Homeopathy is a complete system of medicine that uses medicines that are processed, that are made from mineral, plant, or animal origin, and uses them to stimulate the self-healing of the body. These remedies are highly diluted and highly energized. That means they are diluted until there's no substance, but only pure energy. It's a pure energetic treatment. And another quality is that it is not a fight, so it is not a struggle like when there's a fever. In conventional medicine, you give something to sink the fever. As homeopath, we would give something that could, in its raw form, create the fever and now helps to sink the fever. I give you an example. Somebody that comes with a bee sting and a big allergic reaction to this bee sting, and it's all red and swollen and itchy and painful. Yeah, very likely when he goes to a homeopath would give him a remedy called apis, which is a remedy made of bee poison.
Wow.
But it does not hold the original poison anymore.
Right.
But it holds the whole energy of the bee and the bee poison, which is then energetically raised into a high vibration. And this helps then the body to deal with this bee poison on the physical level.
Wow.
So even though it's 200 years old, back then, no homeopathy, back then nobody talked about energy medicine.
Right, right.
It's pure energy medicine.
It's pure energy medicine, right. Wow, that's amazing. That, to me, that makes a lot of sense. So, so you are using things from the plant world, the mineral world, and did I miss one? Sorry.
And the animal.
And the animal kingdom, right?
Also.
Right. To help the body come back into balance.
Correct.
Basically. So you treat the whole body, really. What you're looking at, the symptom, I suppose, is just where you perhaps are putting some of the attention, but it's a treatment of the whole body, if I'm correct?
Yes.
You're looking at the body as a whole system?
We look at the body as a whole system, and even more than the body. It's including our emotional and our mental sphere. Because as an organism, as a living being, we are composed of different aspects, of different parts. We have our physicality, we have our physical body, but we also have our emotional and our mental, you could call it body. It's energetic bodies. And all together, and of course our spirit, and all together, this is who we are as a human being. And the separation, physical and here's the soul, is very artificial. It is not real. In reality, soul and body constantly interact and influence each other. And everybody knows that, meanwhile. And so as a homeopath, not only we consider the different problems somebody might have at the same time in the body, but we also include in our consideration the emotional background and how somebody thinks about life. And more than that, we include the family background.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
a lot of our things that we carry energetically, we did not create that in our individual life. We already got something passed on from our family, from our ancestors, or from the culture that we're born out of. Because also this family or our culture, our nation, has an energetic carry-on luggage, yeah, that's being passed on from generation to generation. Because yes, what we cannot deal with, we will pass it on. So we carry things that are older even than ourselves, and we have to include that.
Yes, I think that as far as I understand, recently there's actually been some evidence, sort of scientifically, in the DNA that they are finding that there's some of these things that we are carrying in our actual genes, which is partly perhaps what you're saying, or at least there seems to be some scientific proof now that this is actually true.
This is so true. In homeopathy, this is being considered and looked at for 200 years. We always included, the homeopaths included the family history because they've seen that certain things are being passed down. Now, in modern science, we know about epigenetics, and we know that experiences and problems are epigenetically passed on and passed on from one generation to the other. Give you an example. Somebody comes, being German after war, a woman might have been raped. Yeah.
Okay.
The children, the daughters, carry that trauma in their system, and it creates problems in the relationship, in ways they relate to men. If I only look at this person right now from her life, and if I don't see the bigger picture, this is very, very hard to treat because it is not created out of this lifetime. I need to include that historical, cultural, and family background in order to make sense of some things.
Well,
and only when I include that, there can be a solution.
Right. So, when you are treating people, can you tell us how you would approach that? What's the, how long do you even have to talk to people, and what's a little bit, could you just lead us through a little bit, sort of like a consultation? How would that look?
Usually people come with a problem. So we talk extensively about the problem, the details of the problem, and also when it started, what happened before, was there anything that might have caused it, was there anything that might have triggered it or got the person out of balance before that started. We have to include that, yeah? And then we have to see this problem that's being triggered there. Is it maybe an older problem? Is there a root also in childhood? Yeah? And then we go further from that. When I see somebody the first time, I take 2 to 3 hours time because I really have to understand somebody. Somebody comes with a diagnosis and says, here, my little finger hurts. Yeah? That's not enough for a homeopathic treatment. This diagnosis is like one stone of a mosaic in a big picture. And it only becomes its meaning through the bigger picture. When I isolate it and only treat this finger and ignore the person that has this finger and has the whole history and energetics that caused this problem, I don't do it justice. And I only can treat it very superficially. I can give a painkiller and maybe the pain goes away and something else is going to come up because the energetics that caused that would not have been influenced by any medication.
Right. Because there's so much more going on behind, as you say, behind in the systems that you need to know about. So,
and this is why we do energy medicine, because we know that all symptoms, also in the physical body, originally started from energetic disturbance. And this is where we have to start the treatment.
Right, right. And so, what do treatments look like? What do you give people? Are they even tablets or liquids or what?
Gee, I should have brought some. Yeah,
Oh, well.
they all look the same.
Oh, do
Homeopathic.
they?
They
Okay.
come in. Usually, they come in tiny little pellets, like
Uh-huh.
sugar sucrose pellets, and so they all look the same. Yeah, and the active ingredient is being sprayed on them and dried into these sugar pellets.
Okay.
And then I give them like that. And somebody takes 3 tiny little pellets, and maybe once a day or maybe once a month. And that's all.
So, I guess very often people can. It only takes, depending on what they're needing to treat, could take a month or two, or it's hard to say how long would a treatment last.
It depends. Better answer you with a story. A few
Okay,
days
I love
ago,
your stories.
a few days ago, a man in my treatment came and said, "How come I'm in your treatment now a year, and my prostate problem is only a little bit better?" Yeah.
Right.
And you treated my wife, and after 3 months, her fibromyalgia was gone. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Right.
So what's going on there? So I thought, what a great question. Yes, I said, your wife's problem was an individual creation of this lifetime. She had that only for 5 years. Yeah, so it was
Right.
kind of easy to deal with. Your prostate problem is not only your individual problem. This is a problem of a culture. You have that in common with 3/4 of all men here in our nation.
Wow.
At the same
Wow.
time. And you have it in the 3rd generation of your family. So this is epigenetically hardwired. It will
Right.
take way longer, it will take more effort, and it will go slower to heal. But it's also really important, because whatever we do not take care of, and whatever problems we are not able to deal with, to heal, and energies to integrate in our lifetime, we're going to pass it on if we want it or not. Yeah? And because we love our children and want them to have a world without too much luggage and baggage from other lifetimes and people before that came before,
Right.
we try to deal with our problems and heal them. So even our own healing is not only our private individual thing, it's almost a responsibility for the whole, for
Wow.
all our relations,
Wow.
like Native
That's
people
such a
would
great
say.
way of thinking about it. And I think something that people often don't consider. We're pretty kind of centered in ourselves, especially when we're sick, and we're kind of concerned with just healing that's going on. But to look at it like that is pretty amazing. You mentioned something that I know I've heard you talk about before, but when you talk about sort of a disease like prostate cancer or something that is also on a sort of a mass consciousness level happening in the world, and how that really fascinates me, how that affects, or how when you're treating someone, how you're actually also treating that whole energy system, if I understand correctly, on a more mass level. Is that right? Or
Yes and no. I treat the person coming to see me,
right.
but his or her healing has an effect on the collective.
Wow. Right.
As
right.
well as the problems of our collective affect us
Yes.
individually very strong.
Yes.
So the other way around, it goes the same. Every step that we do for our healing, we do it for everybody else around it. Indigenous people have a wonderful way of looking at that, and a deep, deep wisdom. Like when like Native people go in the sweat lodge, they say all my relations, which is an acknowledgement. What I do, the healing that I'm doing, the prayers that I'm speaking in this ceremony, I do it for all my relations. It's not just me.
Right.
Healing happens in relationship.
Yes.
So healing is bridging the gap, bridging the separation, and seeing again we're part of a relationship. We're part of a big family.
We truly are connected.
And that has to be
and
part of the healing. That has to be part of the healing. And we
Mm-hmm.
support this process with homeopathic remedies.
On an individual basis,
Yes.
each time that
On
you're
an individual basis.
right.
Yeah.
But I just think that's something that's so important to think about, or to recognize how when we do try to heal ourselves, we're also doing it for everyone else, because we are all interconnected.
We are all interconnected. There's nothing that affects only us personally. Yeah.
Right.
And what we do also goes out to everybody else around us. So every step that we do in healing, we license others and make it easier for others to walk this path of healing.
Right.
Whoever today, whoever man is dealing successfully with a prostate problem and makes it easier for everybody else. So this is a great, great opportunity to do something for ourselves and at the same time for the collective, for the whole, for all men and our whole nation. We often look at ourselves as so isolated, me against the rest of the world, in our survival, fear-based survival attitude. It's not the truth, It's me and the rest of the world,
That's right.
It's me including the rest of the world.
Definitely. That's amazing. Yeah. I'm just letting that sink in, because I think that's just so important.
Yeah.
Another aspect that I'd like you just to touch on within, I guess, the homeopathic work that you do is something called a Shameeah, which is, I believe, quite unique. I've experienced it a little bit, but this is something that I think is really interesting, and it's perhaps even a little bit beyond the normal realm of homeopathic treatments. It's something you do use, I understand, your homeopathic training to do this work, but maybe you could speak a little bit about that, because I find it quite fascinating.
I happily do, because this is my passion, and it is connected with homeopathy, but not absolutely only included in homeopathy. What Shameeah is a ceremony of reconnecting with nature. The parts of the ceremony come partially, the mechanics come from homeopathy. The mechanics are simply grinding up and diluting a tiny little bit of a substance,
like a plant.
of a plant, or of some hair of an animal, or some mineral, grind it up and diluting it step by step. The energetics of what is happening are alchemical in nature, because what's happening is a transformation. We can talk about that later.
Okay.
And the attitude I'm doing that with is really the attitude of indigenous peoples, and that I was and am involved with in my native relatives here. I walked the traditional native path, and I lived here on the reserve. I'm adopted in a family on the reserve in Alberta, and I walked this traditional path. This changed my whole attitude to the individual, to the community, and to our relations, how we relate with each other, and especially how we relate to nature. For me, a remedy is not something from a shelf in the pharmacy that has a name and a number. For me, a remedy is a living being in nature that has a soul, that is willing and able to communicate with us and happy to support us on our journey as human beings.
Wow.
So even the stone and the tree out there, they are part of our family and they support us. And when we accept their gift of healing that they provide, we give them our gratitude, our friendship, and our respect. And there's again a bigger cycle and a bigger healing. Now coming back to Shameeah. So Shameeah, I say, is where I'm home. Shameeah is at the crossroads where alchemy, homeopathy, and shamanism meet.
Ah, interesting.
And
Okay.
it is a ceremony where we connect with nature, where we use something from nature, and in grinding it up, we set free the energy that was caught up in the physical substance. We take a tiny little bit of that substance. This energy that we set free creates an energetic field vibrating in the room, because we are within this vibrating space. We are affected. Every cell of our body is affected and starts to resonate with this vibration. And then we simply have to go through a process of allowing something to happen and look inside and see, how does that affect me?
Okay.
And it usually affects first our physical body. We get certain sensations. Later on, when we change the dilution and the vibrational level, we are affected on our emotional levels, and it might be more or less painful. Memories or sensations come up, sad, grief, maybe a tear or something like that, or an anger or whatever it is, yeah. And then we raise again the vibrational level, and we reach a mental level. And from this mental level, it's the first time that we can see the bigger picture of what I've been going through on the physical and on the emotional level so far, and kind of understand, oh, this is a problem I'm dealing here with. And then we go even higher and reach a spiritual level. And there is something that's absolutely, for me, it's always a miracle. I've experienced it so often, and I'm excited every time, because what seemed to be a problem in the lower levels, when I reach the spiritual level, there's this alchemical transformation happening, and suddenly it turns into a gift, that I could not foresee. Let me give you can I give you an example?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. For years, I was having dreams of lions chasing me, and I was scared and trying to hide and run away, and so I knew I have some problem with that, so I better take care of that somewhere. And I did not know what it is and whatever. I asked around, I prayed for it to get something, maybe a little hair or something from a lion, in order to do a Shameeah.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay.
And for a long time I did not succeed. Yeah, people promised me and it didn't come, and I went to zoos and they said no. Yeah, and then within a couple of months I got some hair from a lion from a Maasai warrior in Kenya. And through somebody else, a friend that asked him in behalf of me. And so this Maasai got his ceremonial headdress and cut off a little bit of hair, and said, "This is
what an honor!
This is a lion that I killed as a young man." Yeah, and a couple of weeks later, from a friend of mine, a homeopath in India, he sent me some hair of the last Asian lions. They have a reserve in India, and and I got there some hair. So I said, well, Roland, you better go for it now. It's time. Yeah. And I felt not ready. I'm not sure if I can handle that. And my old knot. Anyways, so we did that. We gathered a small group of us, gathered around that, and then he went into our inner space and like meditative space, grinding up this thing, and just watching what's happening. What was happening on the lower levels was just a huge increased ego and increased self-assertive, aggressive behavior, a lust for certain violence, and this was one part of the group, and the other part was like me. We felt smaller and smaller and like victims and scared, yeah, and it was a real problem. And I was, the whole first day for me was like that. And I prayed and said, oh, the Spirit help me. I don't know how to deal with that. And then the second day we reached the spiritual level and the thing turned around completely. And what seemed to be on the lower levels just a bully, lines, when you look at them in nature, they are just big bullies, aggressive, and whoever's in their way, they just run over or kill him or whatever, all of a sudden it was not about that anymore. It was about the raw of a lion is the beginning of creation. It's like what in the Bible was said, the word of God, the first word, the first sound. The raw of the lion is really the statement, I am. And from this is the whole creation opens up in this space that this sound, the raw of a lion, creates. And then in even higher levels than that, we realized this is about leadership. And the line taught us on the higher levels what it means to be a leader, and to be king, or to about leadership.
True leadership.
And true leadership, that it's not something that's given to you from others, but something that you are gifted with because you have a connection to a higher vision and to a higher level of truth. And you bring that down. This is like Martin Luther King did not boss around everybody and tell him you do this and you do that. He was a great leader because he came and said, I had a dream. That means he was connected to higher potential, to a truth, to a potential in the future. And he channeled that and brought that down and inspired others. So others could see this man is a leader and we follow him. So we ended up in a totally different space and really awe-inspiring space than where we started. And this is what I mean. This is a transformation alchemically in nature, where really you have a problem in the lower levels that you just have to go through, and then there's a transformation happening and you end up with a gift. And actually this is the path of healing. We have a problem,
a perceived problem.
We have a problem, a disease, a pain, a suffering, a grief, or whatever it is, and in fighting it, it's not working. We just give it power and it's getting bigger, or when we are lucky we can suppress it a little bit in the subconscious, but it will make us even more sick and it will get more power over us there. But in embracing it, dealing with it, and like in the Shameeah ceremony, grinding it into high vibrations, loving this problem into high vibrations, there is somewhere a potential of transforming it into a gift that we would not have without this problem. So in this ceremony, we kind of, in a ceremonial way, we experience something about life. That the problems we're facing are actually, in the end, blessings.
This is so important to think about and to recognize. I think we're all starting. I personally am starting to get that things that are so-called problems or issues or things that we don't like are really just trying to sort of get our attention and maybe bring us to some kind of deeper understanding.
They are gifts. Now the gifts of life and of Creator, they are often not packed in Christmas paper with bow, and shiny and beautiful. They often come in pretty in a disguise that does not look very attractive. We better get away from them. But when we accept them, they turn into a gift.
So something that for you was like a big fear, I guess, but that felt like a fearful thing to you, you were able to find the sort of a higher sort of gift there.
I learned for me the true meaning of line, and I realized, Roland, what you're running away from and what you're totally scared of is your own power and your ability and your calling to step up also into a leadership role.
Wow, wow.
So this is what Lion taught me, and ever since I did that, I did not have these dreams anymore of being chased by lions. Yeah. For me, lion, meanwhile, it's more a potential in my own future that I have and want to open up myself for.
Right, right. Oh, that's really fascinating. I think we're going to draw this to a close pretty soon, but maybe just you could tell us what other things. I know you mentioned the lion, but what can you just give us another example of one more thing that you might have delved into with the Shameeah that you found really amazing in its what it taught you?
One other example, when I look out the window, I see this Douglas fir over there. Yeah, Douglas fir. When I came to Canada, when I came here to the island, to Western Canada, was the first. I had the impression I need to understand Douglas fir. She's so this tree is so dominant here. Yeah, and then one day again we met in a group. Simply what we do in a group energetically is stronger than what we do isolated in isolation. Yeah, so sense. I love to do that in a group. Yeah, and the result also is bigger. So we took a few needles, 2 or 3 needles, put them in the bowl and started grinding with milk sugar and so on. And the first thing we felt is this stiffness and rigid, and that's being straight and traditional, and there's rules that we got to follow, and and a certain uniformity. When you look at Douglas firs, how they grow, they are kind of uniform. Yeah, when you compare it with arbutus trees, they are highly individual. Yes. Douglas firs are more uniform a little bit, straight one next to the other like soldiers. Yeah, and so there was this kind of rigidity in our body, pains in our body, but also rigidity in our. There was not much emotion, a certain held back anger. Yeah. And a rigidity in our thinking. That's the way it was, and that's the way we should keep it. Yeah, and when I had this deeper connection then at the spiritual level with the Douglas fir, I asked, "Hey, Douglas fir, we're in a time of change, and what I experienced so far is all about holding on to tradition and to rules. And what do you have to offer us? What's your support for us now in this time where we need to change and need to adapt to change? Yeah, where we need to find new answers and ask new questions and find new answers because the old things don't work anymore." And what I received was a clear image. Douglas fir telling me, "Look at this village here. You see a traditional native village. There's children laughing, women cooking and going along their business, somebody carving a pole, yeah, and everything of that happens because we are the guardians and we hold the space of safety for this village. What I can help you in your time of change is I can give you the safety that you need in order to find the change inside. So you're not pushed from the outside and have to change, because then you will resist and you will have a lot of pain to going through the change. I give you the safety, the inner safe space inside with my rigidity that you need in order to find what you want to change from inside. And then the change will be an organic one coming from inside and not from fear and threats from the outside.
Right.
And I thought, wow, you see something like that, and in the end it changes totally. It's something I could not have made up. And ever since then, you know, when I have people that deal with anxiety or insecurities, sometimes besides the homeopathic specific remedy, I tell them, maybe you sit with the Douglas fir and meditate on the Douglas fir, because the Douglas fir can give you that space of safety that you're looking for.
I can imagine that the knowledge that you've gained through these shamanic practices have really enriched your practice as a homeopathic doctor enormously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It gave me every time I do something like this, my inner world expands. I get to know, you know, this Douglas fir outside has a representation inside of me. There's a Douglas fir inside. And this is what I actually discover. Yeah. And through this resonance with the outer Douglas fir, I can open myself up to this aspect that I was not aware of before, that I get to know, and get to know from the lower levels where it vibrates painfully and is more a problem, this rigidity.
Right.
But I also know in accepting that, I can reach the same, on a high vibrational level, the same energy, and it's a blessing. It gives me safety that allows me to change out of safety and not out of fear. Yes, it expands me every time, and my expansion in doing these things, I can offer that also to the clients coming to see me, a bigger space, also for healing in a bigger way.
Wow. Well, it's been really, really amazing, and I could sit here and talk to you all day and hear your stories. I'm just wondering if we can let people know if they would like to contact you at all, that you are on online and you have your own Facebook, or you have your own sites.
I have a website, I'm too old for Facebook, or at least I never could get friends with it. It's too much work. It feels too strange for me. But I have a website. It's www.vancouverislandhomeopathy.com. All one word. Yeah,
Okay.
you will find me. You can send me emails, questions, or whatever. And you can also ask for Shameeah ceremonies. You're welcome. Everybody is welcome to take part. I offer them, some of them publicly, and others I do, like in with students where I teach homeopathy and things like that.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's been really interesting. Thanks so much, Roland.
You're very welcome. Thank you.